Alright, and welcome to our first installment of this podcast. Please come in and enjoy, and whether you're sitting or eating or running, whatever it is you're doing, I hope you enjoy this podcast. My name's Christian Reed, I'm one of your hosts, and I'm here with Alex Blair.
G'day, how we doing? And this is Lucky to Be Alive. So we've got quite the spiel for you today. You're about to hear of the time that we almost died climbing Mount Ngauruhoe, which is a mountain around the centre of the North Island of New Zealand.
Yeah, flipping heck, man! What a time that was. I mean, like, if we go right back to the start, I reckon it was probably the most unorganised event I've ever done in my life. It was just not good.
Yeah. The amount of planning that went into it was just shockingly low.
Yeah. Alright. Oh, we're also here with Cam, who's just sitting in the background.
He's making the ruckus in the back.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm quite an avid mountaineer, as those who know me will know. So I was trying to organise a bit of a mountaineering trip. It was midwinter of last year, and I was ringing up a few people, and people were saying they'd do it, and then they were pulling out again. So on the morning of, I'd basically given up on trying to find anyone that was nuts enough to come and give this a go. But the morning of, I gave Christian a ring, and he told me he was keen as. So that very same morning, we packed up our bag and drove over to Taupo.
I think that's how almost every one of our adventures have started. It's like, you'll call me and you'll be like, hey bro, man, I've planned this out, I'm on top of it, I've got all the gear you need, man, just say yes and do it. And I swear, every time, everything goes wrong. And I mean, as you'll find out, it does go wrong. But yeah, so I just remember you coming round in this shaky, crap-ass van.
Oh, don't say that about my van.
That's meant to take us from Tauranga to Taupo. And flipping heck, I actually thought we were going to crash in that ride. That was pretty horrific. But before we even got to the mountain, I just remember when we walked in to get some of the crampons for our friend George who came with us.
Yeah.
And I just remember the mountaineering, I don't know, the shopping person.
The people that were hiring out the gear. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the way to go. And I just remember them, like, giving us the oddest looks of, like, middle of winter, these young dudes coming in and just be like, yeah, we're gonna hire out these like crampons and we've got like these axes and all that to climb this mountain. And it's just like, I think they thought that we were idiots.
Well, the weather was shocking, and you could tell that they thought it was shocking because they made sure to make it perfectly obvious that they were not responsible for our safety on the mountain that day.
Yeah, that wasn't a very smart. Oh, well, you know, it was great, but geez, man, those people, we should have listened to them in the end. So
yeah, it was about 6 a.m. Incredibly hungover from the night before.
Yep.
Should probably add.
Yep. And at that stage, we'd taken off from this party and left it a mess. We didn't wait to clean it up.
Well, that's the perfect thing about going on an expedition. You've just got this cool excuse to lead all the packing up and damage to the batch to other people.
Yeah. And so anyway, I remember we're driving there and it's freezing cold, but we've got our gear and we're good to go. And I remember we roll up into the parking lot and there's that gate and we've got a certain time to get out, otherwise they lock the gate.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I just remember thinking, like, alright, this mountain, it's probably not that tall. I mean, well, it probably won't take too long anyway. Well, I've never done it before, and
in regards to your opinion on, you know, how it wasn't that small, to be perfectly honest, it was that cloudy and foggy that day that we couldn't actually see the mountain when we parked up, even though it was rather close. So
yeah, oh shit. But flipping heck, those dudes that we met before we left, the guides that were going up, I reckon that they just saw right through our entire life. Oh, we know what we're doing, you know, you're saying, I've done this before and all that, and you know, I know what I'm doing, I know the track that we're taking, and mind you, there wasn't any track, in my opinion.
Well, there was a track for the first wee way, and then we got to the point quite far up into the ice, and it started snowing at that point. And yeah, we got to that point and we just couldn't see the track anymore. And I just remember saying, I think the mountain's this way.
Yeah. I mean, even just walking there, because for me that was the first time I've actually walked through falling snow, and it was awesome. I was just like, I was having a great time. I was looking around, enjoying the view. It was just like, it was absolutely stunning. It was absolutely stunning. And pretty much we get to like this point, and we're all pretty tired. I think we must have been walking for at least an hour maybe an hour and a half even.
Yeah.
And we're reaching up onto one of these little peaks, and there's this big group of like tourists and this one mountaineer guide, and they were getting all their like crampons on, and we tried to spark up a conversation, and they ignored us, and
they were just cold and miserable.
Yeah, they weren't too happy. And I just remember, like, I think that was the moment when I just remember, like, when we got past them and we turned around, and for one, you could barely see them, but two, you saw them turning around if you did see them. And I just remember thinking, like, man, like, good thing I've got Alex who knows exactly what he's doing. You know?
Well, I was just thinking, what do they know that we don't?
Yeah. Oh, my full faith was in you. I just...
It was completely unjustified faith. I don't know what I've ever done to give you that faith. In fact, I've done things I think that it should make you lose that faith in me.
Yeah, goodness.
But yeah, so we got our crampons on and we started making our way in the direction which I thought the mountain was, because you could really only see no more than 20 meters in front of you. There was just that much cloud. It was a blizzard going on, really.
Yeah, well, there's those, like, the thing is, there's like these posts that are like every, like, 100 meters, maybe a bit further.
No, about 100.
Yeah,
about 100.
That are positioned, and pretty much they're like guidelines for the Tongariro crossing. Is that right? Is that the goal? Yeah. And so we were using these to, one, find this path to then actually get off the path to climb up this mountain. And I just remember, like, slowly they started becoming less visible and becoming more like the snow. And you started, like, wondering, I haven't seen one in a while, man.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's anybody listening that's ever been in a whiteout up in the mountains, but really just all around you is white. The sky's white, to your left and right it's white, the ground's white.
Yeah.
It's incredibly disorientating.
But you know what? Yeah, we keep going.
We
keep going.
That was the first sign that we definitely should have turned around.
Yeah, that was not a good idea coming up to that point, and
we were wandering into the abyss.
It was just one of those moments where, if you know Alex, he's just one of those people that will just go like, you know what, like, she'll be right, shrug it off, we'll keep trooping on because I know better than these people.
And I know better than these trained mountain guides. Yes.
And but I mean, do you want to talk about once we actually started getting to that incline on that peak?
Yeah, so we started to make our way up Mount Ngauruhoe. So we started climbing, and it's getting quite steep, and you're following this rocky ridge that goes up and should take you all the way to the top of the mountain. It's quite a long climb. And I remember starting to climb that, and the wind just was ferocious. It really was. Yeah, no,
that... See, for me, I just hadn't ever climbed a mountain, just ever, before then. So to me, Mount Ngauruhoe, I was like, man, that's me, man. That's my training, you know, like, I'm sorted and ready to go. And I just remember thinking, like, man, like, this is getting, like, pretty windy.
Well,
I can't really see, like, behind me. All I could see, like, because it wasn't full, like, wide out at this stage, but it was getting there where you just kind of were like, okay, I can see along the ridge and I can see where other people are. We're all right, you know, we're still going up this incline. I think for me, though, once it started turning to ice, that became a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And using, because when we had these axes, it got to a point where, like, we're going along, we had to start digging out these little, like, places. Well, at least I was, because I was like, far out, I'm going to snap my ankle because the incline is so large and so steep. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, I've got to dig out these little holes to be able to walk across. And I just remember thinking, like, man, like, oh, you know, it's all right, you know, I've got my friends with here, you know, with me here, and it's all good. Well, what's the worst that can happen, you know? And I actually remember telling myself that, because I was at a point where I just was thinking, I was like, man, like, I am tired. I think at this stage it must have been like 2.5, 3 hours at least.
Oh, at least 3, definitely.
And I just remember thinking, like, man, like, I'm tired, but I am so excited. I'm ready to go, you know, like, let's do this, you know. And I remember looking down at the ground and just, like, looking at the snow and the ice that was stuck on me.
We were covered in snow. Any smart mountaineer would have turned around at that point, to be honest. The wind was... We could hardly see each other because of the whiteout. We could hardly hear each other because of the wind. And
I couldn't hear you guys.
Gosh. And we were up on this mountain. We a bit tired, so I think we stopped to have a couple of muesli bars.
Oh, flipping heck. It was... I'll tell you what, I haven't told you this. It was really disheartening because... So I had 3 muesli bars. Yeah. And I gave you guys, I don't know, I think I gave you guys like 2 each. And I was like, man, I've got my extra one. Like, it's going to give me that boost of energy to like go from, like, or get further than you guys, which doesn't really work when I was at the back of all you guys. But, you know, the logic was there in the beginning. And I remember I go to take it out, and because my hands are freezing and I can't actually like get my gloves off properly, that I dropped the muesli bar and it goes down the hill. And I just remember, my heart sunk. I was so gutted.
It was icing on the cake.
Yeah. But flip, I could barely open the wrappers at that stage. I just remember being like, my hands are freezing. I can't even get it open. And it's really like being like, all right, well, you know, it's pretty cold. We're just sitting here. We're not moving at this stage, so you know the chills are setting in.
Oh, they were big time. It's the wind. It's the wind chill that does that. That's what's gonna.
And I just really think like, far out. Well, at least it's a nice view. It really wasn't.
Not that you could see anything at all.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the main things about this story that I probably should have told you a bit earlier on, because it started quite earlier on. For those of you who don't know what crampons are, they're basically these spikes that will attach to the bottom of your climbing boots to give you that extra and just fundamental grip on the ice as you're climbing. And I was using a very old pair of crampons of my dad's, about 30 years old these crampons were. And from the moment we first put them on, I was having problems with them.
I just want to point out, like, before you continue, is that you tried to give those to me in the beginning. I remember this conversation.
I had my doubts about them.
No, I remember this shit. I remember just, like, being like, all right, like, let's go. And you're like, oh, you all right using these, like, 30-year-old crampons? All these, like, practically new, haven't been worn in. And I was like, well, what do you think I'm going to use? I'm not experienced at all. Yeah, but you keep going.
Yeah, so the crampons, as I was walking, just kept slipping off, and I had to keep telling these guys, you know, wait while I readjust these crampons. But when we were way up on Mount Ngauruhoe, about 2/3 of the way up, we were sheltering in these rocks from the wind. We couldn't see. We were freezing. We really had no idea which way was which.
How tall is the mountain anyway, just for some perspective on how high we were?
2,291 meters, and middle of winter, so it's completely caked in ice, and it's quite steep. It's the mountain they use for Mount Doom in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Crack up.
But I think we would have been about almost 2,200 meters. I think there was only about 100 vertical meters from us to the summit. But so this was right after we've had our muesli bars. It was a extremely odd place to eat some muesli bars.
It really was. If I were to do it again, it was not the spot to stop, but at the same time, if we hadn't stopped, or you know, we could have died. You know, at least you know when if you carry on.
Yeah. So as we were getting prepared to get going again, I noticed my crampons were a bit loose again. So I pulled down to give them an extra tug to tighten them, and they just completely snapped. Like, completely... my right crampon just completely broke on me. The strap just ripped off. And for those of you who don't know too much about mountaineering, to be stuck 2/3 of the way up a mountain in the middle of winter, in the middle of the White House, with gale-force winds just tearing down on you, and now no longer being able to grip onto the ice...
Yeah, well, it's just ice at that stage.
It's an incredibly bad situation to be in.
Yeah, there's no snow up there. It's just ice. It's slippery. your ankles are hurting because you're not walking on flat ground at all. You're having to walk on this steep incline, and I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, so I was like trying to kick my foot into the ice and try and like dig out these little holes, and it's just like, no.
There's no way to grip on without crampons. It's impossible. So it was a really bad situation to be in.
Yeah.
So I just remember thinking, shit, okay, probably should head down.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty accurate as far as that conversation went. It went, George and I looked at each other, and we're freezing, and we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're just assuming that Alex is, he's trustworthy, and we understand that he knows what he's doing, and so we're assuming this whole time that we're fine. Like there were so many signs which suggested to turn around, and I just really think like, no, like it's fine, it's totally fine. But yeah, that conversation was as short as that.
I just remember, just saying, completely calmly, "Oh, geez, Wayne, probably should head down now." This is the worst situation I've ever been in.
Yeah, there was no argument as to how much further, because we did not have that much further to go. But at the same time, it was a risk that it's like, well, it was impossible for you to keep walking. And at this stage, I remember having to dig out these holes with this ice pick, which was like incredibly hard when you're like trying to stay on yourself on this ridge line. And trying to dig out these like holes big enough that your foot won't slip from, because I think you did slip a few times. Actually.
Well, because you and George, the other climber that was with us, you were cutting out steps in the ice for me, so to help me descend down this mountain, but I was slipping all over the place. Yeah. So I think we just made the decision that slipping was the way to go.
It actually was. Yeah. It was a blessing in disguise, wasn't it?
Yeah. So instead of trying to slowly make our way down this ridge line, we thought, well, let's just slide off the ridge line into this icy valley, and then just slide the rest of the way down the mountain.
Yeah, which, mind you, was actually so sick. Like that, I loved that, being able to, because how you had to do it is you held the ice pick to like the right of your chest, and pretty much you'd slide down almost on your back, and then if you need to slow down, you'd turn facing the mountain, and you'd stab
your shoulder.
Get your shoulder with the ice pick, and it'd slow you down, which was like, it was really cool. But the problem was, and the stupid thing was, okay, there's a few reasons thinking back on it. Was one, you couldn't see, I reckon, like 5 meters in front of you at that stage.
We didn't know what we were sliding into.
So we could have been sliding to like off a cliff, and that could have been it. That could have just been dead, And at the same time, though, once we actually did get down into this valley, you couldn't see where we came from because it was too wide out.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, from up on the ridge, we had a general idea of which way to get down, but now that we'd slid a couple of 100 meters from where we were before, we just had no way off this mountain, and the whiteout was just getting worse and worse, and we couldn't see a thing.
Yeah, and so at that stage, I'm no genius, I'm no mountaineer, but at that stage the most reasonable thing to do would be trying to find the ridge and then trying to follow back somewhat the way we originally went up in the first place. But we had the brilliant idea of just walking out into the valley. And just walking out to the point you literally couldn't, like, we had to stay within like a couple meters of each other, otherwise it was just like, far out, I'm going to lose where you are. And I don't know which way was straight, I don't know what I was walking on. I was just like, flipping it, man, like what have I got myself into all of a sudden? And Struth, man, that was terrifying.
That was the most dangerous part of the day. It was more dangerous than being up on this incredibly sheer cliff with a broken crampon and the gale force winds. It was because we had no idea which way to go, and it was incredibly cold, and we had no idea which way we were walking. But we just walked. We just kept swimming. Just keep swimming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And I reckon we were walking for maybe 10 minutes. I reckon it was about that.
Yeah, about 10.
And I just remember thinking, like, all right, We've been walking for 10 minutes, and we're walking in the direction we think is the way to go back, which just isn't a good sign to start with. When you're thinking, you're just kind of like, oh, I think it's that way. In reality, we had no clue. Well, we all just kept saying that, like, and agreeing with each other, so we felt like we were going the same way.
This is when I realised that we could hardly see, because we were going up this slight incline the ice, up this kind of icy hill, and I was getting quite tired at that point because I could still hardly grip onto the ice. I was doing a lot of sliding about and falling down, and we were slowly making up this icy hill, and I just said, guys, I'm exhausted, let's just have a sit down for a bit. And
that's right.
Literally 1 metre above us was the top of this hill and this nice plateau where we could have just sat down, but we couldn't see it, so we just had our necks break on the sitting on the slope. That's how bad it was. That's how much we couldn't see. And the area that we were in is huge. It was just this.
And far out. Yeah, I just remember that was the time when I had my last muesli bar. And
talking a lot about the muesli bars.
They were really good, man. They were really good, and they gave me some hope, to be honest. But I just remember like opening that up, and I just remember thinking like, man, like, is this my last meal? Because at that stage, like, it was, we don't have enough. There's not enough warmth, and we don't have enough energy to just like keep walking. For X amount of hours.
Yeah.
At this stage, it was, and I think,
and it was in the kind of place that you could walk in any direction and just be walking for hours and hours before you actually see anything.
Yeah, and I think we found out in the end that it was the worst blizzard that's been on that mountain in like how long? It must have been for the year at least.
Oh yeah, it was one of the worst ones that year. Yeah.
And yeah, geez, I just remember that was just kind of freaky sitting there. But you know what? You got your friends, and you
got someone to die with.
Yeah, exactly. I tell you what kind of freaked me out, but it was also like, actually, it got us out of there. Really, was how when you're in like a desert and like people like say you start hallucinating, you start seeing water and all that.
A mirage.
Yeah. So you start being like, oh man, let's walk that way. I remember George was walking with us, and he's starting like, oh man, I think I can see the post, eh? And we're like, oh yeah, like the first time he says it, we're super excited. We're like gunning over there. There's nothing there. Like, I don't remember seeing anything there. And I just remember being like so disheartened at that point, just being like far out,
and
like
just collapsing back down.
Yeah. We just all sat down. I was like, all right, cool, nice one, George.
Losing sensation in your fingers at that point as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had another muesli bar, we couldn't have opened it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. But I think that happened one more time. But to be honest, I can't.
No, it did. Yeah, I think so. Yep.
And yeah, I just really think like, wow, like we're in shit
creek.
This is it. This is like, this is. I mean, what a way to go out, but like, no, not keen. Anyway, and so I remember George's. He says it one more time, and he's like,
I think that by that time was the boy who cried wolf. Yeah, we just sort of given up on him.
Yeah, we were just like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, George. Give it up, because we're at this point where I think we're coming up this hill towards our left at this stage. Well, I thought it was. But general, the left we were facing. And I remember this hill being there, and we're like, all right, if we get to the top of that, we might get a better advantage point, which doesn't make any sense in a whiteout blizzard. But we're like, it's worth a shot.
Get to see a bit more white. Yeah.
And George is adamant that he's seen this post, and I reckon he was babbling on for about a minute, just saying, I've seen this post, man, we've got to go this way. And we did, we went that way, and it was actually the post.
It was, yeah.
It was actually the post.
I think we just started running towards it, and because when we'd first seen these posts at the start of the day, they were sticking a good metre out of the ice.
Easily.
And this just gives a good indication how much snow there had been that day. And how lucky we were to see it in this enormous icy landscape. It was sticking, I think, about 15 centimetres out of the ice.
It was just like, it was ridiculous.
But we just were over the moon.
I was so excited. But the thing was, and I don't know how we figured it out that quickly, was that you couldn't tell like which way you still had to go to find the next post because it's 100 meters away.
Yeah.
So, like, we ended up doing, unfortunately, the first trial we walked the right way, but you ended up like seeing the post and you're just so relieved, and then all you know is that you have to leave the post and hope you find the next one. And because it was only like 15 centimeters out of the snow, at that stage you're thinking like, well, shit, is the next one going to be like completely submerged? You know, like,
exactly.
Is it going to become to a point where you are just like, well, I guess walking anywhere and hoping you find it? But I guess what happened?
Well, I think we picked the right direction to walk in.
Yeah.
And we found the next post, another 15 centimeters sticking out of the ground.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just got incredibly lucky. I think incredibly lucky, and we managed to find our way back to the main track.
Yeah.
We were just completely numb, but
so
relieved.
Oh, and that's when we met that guy, the American dude.
It was like, I can't do an American accent. So, do you think I should go up there? Like, no.
Yeah, we were trying to keep it pretty low key. We were like, oh yeah, you know, like it's pretty wide out up there. Like at this stage, we were like, we must have been in some sort of clearing because. I just remember that dude.
And this was about an hour of walking from where the place we got
lost. Easily. And this guy who's just like from America. He's like, oh, you know, like I live in like cold places and I'm used to all this and all that. And like he's not wearing what I would call like
the appropriate
gear. Like it looked like he's wearing like a sweater and like just kind of like doing his own thing, like pretty casually. And he's just asking us. He's like, oh, you know, like. I'm really keen to get up this mountain, or that, you know, should I get it? We're like, nah, not quite, Unless,
we must have looked just a mess. I mean, we would have been just standing there shivering, completely caked in ice. I think that, you know, it's a disgusting image, but it's when kind of all your snot is just frozen and your glasses are just frozen over.
Oh my God. We had sunglasses for glasses because we didn't have like any like I guess like actual gear, so we're using like sunglasses that you get from like a chemist store, which is bad enough because I remember them falling off.
George was wearing aviators.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, it was just like I was wearing those like I think circle ones, or I could be wrong, but
I know I gave you my my hippie glasses.
Yeah. I just remember the amount of times those fell off, but. Like, you just couldn't look at the snow. Like, if we didn't have those, you could have gone, like, partly blind, easily.
Yeah, that was snow blindness,
But yeah, this guy, what a character he was. And then he just starts just walking with us for, like, a little bit. But
good. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we saw him. Otherwise, he would have been in a similar situation to us.
Yeah, true. And then he went and did his own thing. I can't remember where he went, but we ended up either like walking without him and like left him behind, or like he had to go do something. I don't know what you're gonna do out in the middle of a blizzard, to be honest. But maybe he tried climbing that mountain. For all we know. Yeah, hope not. And then it was just that long journey of just being freezing cold. I mean, it was at the point we didn't even want to get the water out of our bags, even though we're thirsty, because it's just like you don't want. Like something that cold.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just guess we just wanted to get back to the car. Not that the van's heater worked, but
And so eventually we take this long trip back, like relieved as anything. I remember once we saw like there's this long wooden track. And I remember we found it after following this. I reckon we walked for like another hour and a bit until we got to this place. And it was such a relief because it takes you straight back to the car park.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh my goodness, what a relief. And we get back there, and so that group that we passed earlier that we saw turn around.
The tour group,
the tour group that ignored us. The instructor, I remember, he came up to you. I didn't talk to him. What did he say to you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he told me he saw us heading off towards the mountain, and he was considering for a moment telling us to come back, and then he was like, nah.
Yeah, that was just... Yeah, he's the guy who told us that was one of the worst blizzards that...
Yeah.
Far out.
I mean, that was one of the first times that, they've made the decision not to take the tour group. I mean, the tour group doesn't go up Ngauruhoe, they go up Mount Ngauruhoe, much lower, but... Even with that much
yeah, I
lower
was going to
mountain.
say, yeah, it's still though.
Yeah.
And so I remember like there must have been like there's someone who had a good go at us for going out there and was calling us idiots and all that, which is fair enough.
Oh, completely fair enough.
It's just like,
that doesn't even begin to describe it.
And then we finally get back to the van, and it's just like, what a relief. And the American dude's there, and he starts like offering us like cookies and all that.
Oh yeah.
That's
lovely guy. Really lovely guy.
And we're like so relieved, and then that realization hits that it's so cold that the van might not start.
The van's a very, very old Toyota Hiace. So a good, reliable car, but incredibly old, and it's failed on me. It's not a reliable car. It's not a reliable car. It's failed on me a few times before, and it was completely just caked in ice.
Yeah.
And I had no hope for it.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where I was like praying. I was like, man,
it doesn't start if there's a slight bit of frost on the ground in the morning, and here it was just completely caked in ice.
Yeah, and it just made me like far out. Like this is the one moment where it's like, oh, if this doesn't work out, it's gonna be trying to make some good friends to take us home, really.
Yeah,
and then ditching that van, because I think if that van wasn't going to start, I don't think it was in a position where it would start again. It was old, man. That was.
If you got the right person there, it would start. But
not at this stage though.
But it didn't matter because
it started.
Because it started after a long amount of time.
Yeah, after a lot of just hoping and just like I think at this stage we were all like undressed and just like. I remember I was in my underwear just like trying to like warm up and like run around, and I don't know, because I was still wet from all the ice at that stage, and I had to get in the van to get all my clothes on, and you had to open it at that stage. But far out, that was terrifying. We got in that van, and the van started, and just the relief was there.
Yeah.
It was just
boy.
Far out.
Yeah, that was one of the most relieved feelings I've ever had in my life. And we set off on our merry way.
Yeah, exactly that. And then came back and essentially kept that story hidden for the newcomers who, went on other trips with us.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to that mountain, but on other mountains and other trips.
And other adventures.
Yeah, plenty of other ones. But yeah, far out. That was something. That was
day to remember, definitely. A day to remember. Truly were lucky to be alive.
Yeah, easily enough. So, anyway, so that concludes our Ngauruhoe death experience. Well, near death experience. Yeah. And so thank you so much for listening. We wish you an absolutely merry day, especially during COVID-19 lockdown. And have a wonderful day. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, you've summed it all. Thank you for listening, and we'll have another one soon enough.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to hear more about our misadventures, follow us on Spotify or YouTube.
Yep, and if you want to hear more and see more of our behind the scenes and some pictures of our adventures, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, and we'll be updating those regularly.
Sweet as.
Cool.